Hello and welcome. My name is Susan from Susan's World of Yoga, and today I wanted to share with you Balasana, or child's pose, and some of its variations and benefits. Now, the reason I want to share child's pose with you is because it is one of my favourite yoga asanas that I use very regularly within my classes. And part of the reason I do this is because it's very accessible to most people and most bodies, including those who are pregnant or postnatal, and it has numerous fantastic benefits. Now, first of all, just because of the nature of the posture and the way that you are in it, it's really good for releasing tension around the neck and the shoulders, and also up the spine, and sometimes also into the hips if you do the variation with the knees just slightly wider. It's a really good posture for anybody suffering from stress or anxiety, and also when practiced regularly it can help with insomnia and sleep problems too. It's a really good pose for that. It can also be quite a re-energizing posture and restorative posture. It's used a lot within restorative yoga, for example, with different sort of props and things as well. So generally it's a really good one for reducing fatigue and all of the other things I've mentioned already. So it is a really, really fantastic load of benefits for this posture, including also increasing kind of blood circulation. But I don't want to talk too long about the actual benefits, although there are lots of them. What I'd like to do is go through the posture with you, demonstrate it, and provide you with some benefits and some tips as well. So all you need is a yoga mat or a space on the floor to practice this. And you may wish to have either a blanket or a cushion to hand to use for a couple of the different variations. Okay, so let's get going. So to start with, I'm going to move on to my hands and knees, placing the hands underneath the shoulders and the knees just slightly separated, so they're just about hip distance apart, just where the hip bones are, and the knees are slightly separated to here. And I'm going to bring the big toes to touch behind me. Now from this position, I'm just going to start to move the pelvis backwards until it rests down onto the legs, to the calves, to the heels. Now from here, I can bring myself either down so that I'm resting like this. So I'm resting on the backs of the hands. I can keep the arms outstretched and allow the forehead to come to the ground. Or this may be where you bring in a cushion, a pillow, or a block, just to bring the floor up towards you so you can rest your head here and release into it, okay? It's quite nice to be able to release the head down onto something. It really connects you with the ground, and also it does mean you can really release the neck and shoulders and you're not kind of holding the head up. You can let go and sink into the ground. Now, a couple of other ways that you would use the blanket are, if this is sore or painful on the tops of the feet, you could perhaps just place a blanket underneath the tops of the feet just to pad this out. And again, that might make it slightly more comfortable, slightly more accessible. Equally, if this feels uncomfortable and you find that your bottom is just that little bit higher up when you come down, again, to make it more restful, more comfortable, you could use a block, pillow, blanket, placing this under your bottom and then coming down into the pose, and that might make it more comfortable or restful for you. I always think a blanket is a fantastic prop in yoga because it can be laid out flat, it can be rolled up to bring it up, or it can be used as a sort of cushion. So it's quite a versatile prop to have around, and most of us have a blanket around the house to use. So one other variation that can be quite nice is to actually separate the knees just a little bit further. And this can help just stretching slightly more into the hips, but also sometimes it just gives more space for the belly to sink, the chest to sink, and the forehead to reach the ground. Now this is especially true if you are pregnant, for example, and you have a little bump here that needs a little bit more space to hang. So bringing the arms out in front, stretching, kind of fingertips walking forwards can help to really stretch through the shoulders and the neck. If this pinches in the shoulders, just widen the shoulders a touch and then sink down. Fantastic. Now, whichever position you're in, whether the arms are straight, whether the knees are in line with the hips, whether you're using a blanket, the really important thing is to, once you've found the pose,
is to really ground down and let go. To breathe deeply in and out through the nose and releasing with every exhale. So we breathe in through the nose and we breathe out through the nose, really releasing and really sort of pressing that forehead down into the ground or your backs of your hands or to the blanket in front of you, so that when you release, you are really releasing tension from around the neck and the shoulders as you rest. Fantastic. So you breathe here for a minimum of 3 to 4 breaths, but actually it can be nice to be there for longer. If you're doing this as a restorative posture, then you may wish to be here for several minutes, especially if it feels incredibly comfortable, you're very settled, then you could stay there for several minutes at a time. Now let me just show you a couple more options in terms of arm positions. So first of all, if we're saying the knees are straight, you've got the arms in this position here as an option. A second option is to bend the elbows and take the hands onto the back of the neck. It's like you're giving yourself an actual sort of pat on the back. In fact, you really are giving yourself a pat on the back. And what this does is it really kind of calms and comforts, and it really is giving you that kind of reassuring pat on the back. So that's a really lovely variation as well. Another variation is keeping the legs close together, allowing the forehead to sink down onto the ground and bringing the hands to the side of the body. And what this does is releases tension from the very top of the back here, around the upper back and neck, because the shoulders kind of spread out and melt down and release here, rather than the arms being up here. So if, for example, you do have any shoulder injuries and the arms being outstretched just doesn't feel quite right, or you feel any tingling or kind of awkward sensations or tightness, then actually maybe having the hands at the sides can feel better for you. Fantastic. So those were the variations I wanted to share with you today. And what I'd say perhaps with this posture is experiment. Try and find your variation of the posture that sits best with you. It's a posture I often use towards the beginning or end of classes to kind of bring the mood down, to help people relax. And it's always an optional posture, a restful posture, in between some of the stronger postures or asanas that I would do in a class. So it's one you can always return to mid-practice should you actually feel a little fatigued and need to just be still for a moment and re-energize the body. So enjoy this. This is Balasana, child's pose, with a few different variations and options for propping up. And please feel free to contact me if you have any feedback on this video, or you want to share with me your variations of the pose. So enjoy. Namaste.